In case you missed it with all the talk about Brexit, you know, all that talk about how the EU and the euro will inevitably collapse, how the Brexit vote strengthens the dollar, and how a cap will eventually be put on the euro and people caught in the currency will lose yet more wealth, and how the demark and some revival of the old exchange rate mechanism will return and so forth. There was a very interesting story coming out of Antarctica that Mr. SD and a few others shared, and it caught my eye for a number of reasons, not the least because of one statement stuck in the middle of an otherwise apparently bland article. South Pole medical evacuation flight launched. Now, before we get to that strange statement and my high-octane speculation of the day, note that this story concerns the medical evacuation of an unnamed member of a scientific team. It's not the first such story we've seen coming out of Antarctica in recent years, as other such flights have been made, but they have been shrouded in a pall of secrecy. Little real information has come out about why these flights are necessary. You'll note, for example, that in this article there's very little real information about why this medical evacuation was necessary, and a lot of, well, fluff about Antarctic flights and so on. In the past, the pattern has been similar, and has fueled all sorts of speculation and conspiracy theories about the discovery of deadly dormant viruses and other diseases. A few years ago, the focus was on Lake Vostok and what the Russians were doing there, which, again, was shrouded in secrecy. Then, more recently, there was the strange visit to the southern continent of Russian Orthodox Patriarch of Moscow, Kirill III, the first Christian hierarch, Orthodox, Catholic, Anglican or otherwise, to visit the southern polar continent. Kirill posed, of course, for the photo op with the penguins, and then flew back to Russia. And this occurred, lest we forget, after his meeting with Pope Francis I in Havana. That too, fueled all sorts of speculations, including a story that the Saudis had dug up some sort of ancient apocalyptic Horn of Gabriel technology while excavating near the Grand Mosque in Mecca. The story, so it went, was that the Saudis turned in desperation to Mr. Putin and the Russians, who promptly took the alleged recovered technology to Antarctica, and buried it. And, lest we forget, there are of course all those stories about Nazis, flying saucers, and secret Antarctic Nazi flying saucer research bases. Of course, I've never been on board with that interpretation of the Nazi presence there, and have detailed the reasons why in various books and interviews. Nonetheless, these rumors were fueled by the strange and sudden evacuation of Admiral Byrd's post-war Operation High Jump expedition to the continent. But as I've also pointed out, in Roswell and the Reich, there were very strange seismic events allegedly being recorded on the continent of wild long-standing waves that far exceeded the normal seismic signatures of earthquakes, even very large ones. And, lest we forget, those were posted by a German amateur following the strange goings-on in Antarctica. So, all of this, I suppose, is the context in which, perhaps, to view the following strange statement in the article, indeed, the only statement in the article of any real factual significance, and one which invites, nay, almost compels, some high-octane speculation. Officials with the National Science Foundation, NSF, have launched a medical evacuation flight to NSF's scientific station at the geographic South Pole. After comprehensive consultation with outside medical professionals, agency officials decided that a medical situation at Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station warrants returning a member of the station's winter crew to a hospital that can provide a level of medical care that is unavailable at the station. The patient is seasonally employed through the Lockheed-Martin Antarctic Support Contract, ASC, the prime contract for operations and research support contractor to NSF for the United States Antarctic Program, USAP. NSF is not releasing any further personal or medical information to preserve the patient's privacy. Emphasis added. Say that again, please. Lockheed-Martin has a contract for scientific research in Antarctica? The same Lockheed-Martin renowned for advanced aerodynamics, the same Lockheed-Martin that is a key corporate defense contractor and player in the U.S. military-industrial complex? The same Lockheed-Martin that recently rolled out its small nuclear fusion reactor, that, let it be recalled, looked suspiciously like the 1960s patents for the same by Philo Farnsworth, small enough to fit on the back of a truck. The same Lockheed-Martin whose former chief of its skunk works, Ben Rich, is alleged to have said before he died that we found an error in the equations and now we can take ET home, and a number of other equally provocative remarks. The same Lockheed-Martin that is alleged, in certain alternative research and ufology circles, has been one of the companies in the vanguard of anti-gravity research? Well, I think you can guess where my high-octane speculation is going. Lockheed-Martin would not be in Antarctica investigating penguins, nor taking ice core samples, sponsoring seismic studies, or investigating Antarctica's many thermal pools and lakes. It's an aeronautics company. Airplanes, conventional and otherwise, are its bailiwick, in addition to data management and so on and so forth. Did they find some sort of lost ancient high technology there? A crashed flying saucer? No one is saying, and in the absence of any clear indications, then wild and woolly speculations abound. But, I cannot help but recall, that two of the sponsors of the Nazis' expedition in 1938–39 to Antarctica were none other than Rudolf Hess, Reichsleader of the Nazi Party at the time, and we all remember who his secretary was, and Reichsmarshal Hermann Göring. Hess, of course, had his lifelong interest in the occult and esoteric, ended up flying to Great Britain in May 1941, trying to negotiate a peace with the UK, and spent the rest of his life in Spandau prison, and died under circumstances so suspicious that his British physician questioned whether or not his patient was the real Hess, or a substituted double. But Hermann Göring was all nuts and bolts business and technology, and had but one interest: power, and the advancement of German power and interests. Needless to say, it was a strange combination of patrons for an Antarctic expedition dealing only with matters of pure scientific inquiry. And Lockheed-Martin's presence on the continent only enhances the mystery of what the great powers are doing down there. And, let it be noted, fits that Hess-Göring pattern. See you on the flip side.